Yo, bloggers don't know, no. It's your boy Farai, Tafari, not Tafari. For the people in the back, welcome to Come True. Thanks for coming through and expect to have a good time, man.
The one, the only, the luxurious one, man. I had to bring back the luxuriousness for the last part of 2024. I already know what time it is. It's your boy, the one and only, Mr. Deshaun Webb. We back again.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, this your boy Kenny, the bastard host. Just coming true for another come true for the come true. I appreciate that man having me coming true again. And like Farai said, it's the last. No, I don't know if Farai it was you Webb who said it's the last part for the year.
Yes, sir,
So
yes, sir.
yeah,
That's a
man, we
fact.
just finish. Let's just finish this off with a banger.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. I mean, it's the end of the year, so I just asking how y'all doing, how y'all feeling today? How was your past week? Anything special? I mean, Christmas did pass, but yeah.
It's good energies, man. It's definitely good energies. Spirits is high. I don't really subscribe to the wait until the new year kind of come kind of vibe. So I ain't really like preparing for new. I think about. I think about. There's some things I do say I gonna do, but most of the real actionable items that mean something to me, in my mind, I just gotta do it now, miss. And otherwise, I probably ain't gonna do it regardless. So, but we ain't good meds, man. Good timings.
Yeah, for me, man, it's been pretty chill, man. I'm just trying to get myself together, clean up the crib a bit. Trying to get some renters in there.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so it's been some home improvement, some do it yourself DIY. Yeah, and
yeah.
but I guess for me, I'm not really a big fan of like New Year's resolutions because it's like why wait till the New Year when you could just deal with it, start those expectations right now. So I think I've been just trying to make a conscious effort of standing by, standing on business in certain retrospects, and just definitely sticking to what I say, like walk it like I talk it. So
True, true.
just
And we're
been
gonna
on
get in
that
a little
lane.
more detail and that the New Year's resolution, whatever you want to refer to it as, things that you're currently working on. We're gonna get into that later in the pod. But for me, yeah, my week was good. Can't complain. Christmas was nice, good vibes. We get Starlink, so I feeling really good because that internet
What?
is moving.
You got that
Internet is
Elon Musk?
moving,
You got
yes,
that?
sir. So
You got that Elon Musk?
yes. So
Congratulations.
very excited about that. And hey, we'll talk about the rest later on. So I guess I'll kick we off just real quick. I just I saw this question posed on social media. I forget where I saw it, but very simple question, often spoken about. Is it better to be feared or respected?
I'll begin.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Let's hear it.
Um, just to take this off the table, I think the obvious answer would well, let me not say that. I would like to be both if I could, but I ain't gonna sit down there and make my take all about it being both. If I was to have to choose either or, I think it would more so depend on the situation. For example, if I is a man who have enemies of some sort, then I think it'd make more sense for me to be feared because then I put the fear in the heart of my enemies to not come try me any fashion. Now, if we're talking about to me like in a business perspective, I think I would go with respected. So that way they have like they don't want to leave, you know what I'm saying? They want to ride by me and stick by whatever I have going on. So that's my two. I would like to be both if possible, but I think there's a space if you had to choose one where I would say I would lean more towards one side than another, depending on the circumstances.
That's fair. That's fair,
Okay.
Kendrick.
All right. So I know, I mean, being in the military, I've seen both sides of the same. I've seen both sides of the coin. Like I've seen different people I've served under. They've led with fear, and they've led with big and respect. But from what I've seen, that would say is the most effective one is being respected because I know there's this one gentleman. Um, I call him. They used to call him. His call sign was Diesel. Don't know why. Actually, I do know why, but gotta keep it PG, you know. But this man, he was loved by all, and he was like he was the man of the people. Like he was well respected. He used to come up to bat for you. Vibe is just he was just such a people's person, and he's earned, like especially like somebody that high up in the food chain. It's like they tend to, you got to respect me because of my rank. Nah, like he was the one who was like, I'm going to give you that respect, and I hope I can earn your respect. And I would say that was one of those biggest leadership qualities that I've learned, and I've tried to incorporate it for myself. So I would say I do think it's better to be respected than it is to be feared. I've seen how what fear does, and it may work. It may seem like you might get that instant result, but I've seen it fall short so many times as like when the going gets tough. So I'll stick on being respected.
Yeah,
Before
I
you go
don't have.
far,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want he brought up the military. I think the military in itself, not like from our perspective as people that were in the military or you still in, but the military entity itself is an entity that I would say would require fear. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my
Mm-hmm.
military to be feared by adversaries so they don't come try to take over. So I guess that's an example of
Mm,
somebody, some entity or something I would think like fear would be more valuable than respected because people can respect you and still try you. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
true. That's true.
Yeah, but
I
That's
mean,
I
true.
wouldn't want nobody to try my military because now that mean we getting invaded. You feel me?
Mm,
that's true. But I do think once that respect is at a certain level, people ain't going to try you necessarily. And I do gear more towards the respected side, mainly because with both you could get very similar outcomes. You could get very similar scenarios in what you want it to look like. But
Mhm.
when it comes to being feared, they have a lot of things on the back end that might be under the
count.
table that you don't see, that whether it's developing within your followers, developing within anybody really, that you don't necessarily see. So yes, they fear you, yes, you don't get what you want, but they also looking at you away, and they might revolt in some way. Like
Mhm.
I
It's
think of it
almost
like with kids. I think of it like with kids. We're beaten. That's you using fear as your tactic. Yes, you could get that behavior, but if you gear more towards respect, and you get that respect and you have that absolute respect, you can still get the same outcome with all the less uh variables, the unknown variables within that. So
true.
I do think that being respected is what we should go and what we should strive to be, because it's the better option. Fear comes with a bunch of different negatives that could affect you in the future.
I do think it could kind of like low key work hand in hand. Um, I mean, I guess like kind of what Webb was saying is, I guess, using both, but I guess is where you're going to use the both. How are you going
Right.
to kind of pivot
This
and
level.
adjust where fear is needed? There's a certain level of fear, because without that fear, I think in some cases people are going to take you as a joke. Like they might just stamp over the whole respect, and respect is going to only take you so far. But a certain level of fear, I would say, is warranted in certain aspects, depending on how you use it
Yeah.
in order
And
to get a job done.
I do agree, because at the end of the day, like Webb did say, people can step over that
Well,
respect
Beck.
in certain situations, and you have to be able to pivot into being that being fear, that monster that people scared of because they know you not want to play with. And when you use it right, especially when you strive more towards respect, that will only increase the respect, because they know in the situations when they're going to get tough, don't mess with that man. That man will rip your head off. But
It's like
yeah,
my bad.
no, that was it. That was it.
It's like I'll give two examples. One of you, the one that you brought up with the kids, and then I'll use another one. But like for the kids, I do think that kids have some type of, do they respect their parents? They do have a little bit of a fear when it comes to their parents. Whether it be like the fear, I know you use that extreme example like the beating, but if we talk about like just the fear of punishment in general, you know what I'm
or the
saying?
fear or the fear of disappointment.
Disappointment, like those
Yeah,
little bit
Yeah,
of those things can lead to as well. Like I think Farah just said, it could help you gain a little bit more respect. But then, and this is the last thing I bring on in, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. But let's say you're in the streets now. I've seen posts where there's like, yo, the people respect their apps. Like, yo, I respect this man. Though me and he beefing, like I respect
True.
him, but that don't
Arms
remove
away.
the beef. Like I respect what he to do. Like he's a stand-up guy. He the right for his soldiers, but
Mm-hmm.
we beefing, so I still got handle our
Doing my
beef. You know
vibe,
what
right?
I'm saying? Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
there is where I think like, all right, if you fear me, you're a little less likely. But like I said to far right point, sometimes fear could make you do something adverse as well out of that fear to try to remove that element altogether because you think
Yeah.
something might happen to you. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think in the real world it's kind of a balancing act. You kind of have to know which hat to put on, really and truly,
True.
yeah,
because certain situations do call for you to be or want to be feared in that situation. If somebody coming to rob you, they don't really care about respect at that point in time. You could be the president of the United States. If they came to rob you, they come to rob
yeah,
you. You
yeah,
in that
Yeah.
moment you want to be feared. You don't
yeah,
want to just be respected. So I think
True.
it's a balancing act depending on the situation, kind of like what you were saying in the beginning where
yeah. Good lead with both. I think we all in cahoots now. Lean towards more respect, but make sure you're still
Have some type of
able.
supplemental
make
fear.
Yeah,
sure you a monster inside and just tame the
Yeah.
beast. Keep it caged until you need
But
it.
let's put it in your back pocket, man. Let's put it in your back
facts.
pocket.
Yeah.
But I want to pivot. So I actually stem from a conversation that me and Kenya had before. We're talking about America. This how they call it, the land of the free.
Home of the brave.
Land of the free, home of the brave. Whatever else to say, and whatever else to say. I want to ask you guys, like, do you guys think that America is truly the land of the free? And then like give a little bit of explanation as to
Mm.
why you do, why you don't.
I think I
Why I
want.
would say
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
you
ahead. Go
want to
ahead.
start off, Kendrick?
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I going to say why I consider it to be and why it can be seen as the land of the free is because of the amount of financial opportunities that's out there. You able to go after whatever you want and be successful in whatever you want, and that all depends on how much work you put in. You have that opportunity. They have so much immigrants that come through that go to the states with absolutely nothing and has become millionaires over the 10, 20, 30 years, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
that opportunity is available for everybody. So that's why I would consider it from that perspective to be the land of the free. Now, reality wise, when you factor in other things, I don't consider America to be the land of the free. The better term I would think it'd be the land of opportunity, not the land of the free.
Okay. That's fair. That's
Mainly
fair.
because I mean, shoot, look at the number of incarcerations. We have the number one in the world of incarcerations of and especially of black people. You
Mm.
know, we look at our education system. I mean, yes, we have the opportunity to go for friggin' private education and things like that, but in the education that's provided to us for free, we have it's bullshit, and
Mm.
we don't have that we kind of oppressed in the choices we have when it comes to education, and it's just not black people. It's everybody that goes to public school. I I feel like in all the other aspects outside of financial opportunity, or not all, a lot there is the standard of living and things like that is not up to par for a lot of people, and it could feel like you kind of caged up, and I kind of just rambling now. So somebody take the wheel, please.
so
Well, Kenny,
so right. I think
I
America
I
is
I
the
I I
land
you
of.
singing tune over there, man.
Hey, don't let me start going on the vocals. I really think it's America is the land of the free with stipulations and conditions.
Mm.
Um, I've traveled the world. I've been to a bunch of different places. I've seen what compared if we were supposed to compare and contrast to like America to other countries I've been to like for example I've been to Djibouti, right, in Africa. And yes, compared to America, like we have, and to what you saying, Farah, we have opportunities, we have freedom to make certain choices, have certain rights. And then compared to these other places, it's like, yo, this is like And maybe because of the social norms, I think it's like, wow, these people living in like a third world country. I mean, it is low key a third world country, but it's like it's so significantly different. And as I've traveled to different places, I see whereas that thought of freedom really is. It's like, yeah, I mean, I could drive down the street, buy what I want, I could do what I want, I could start a business, I could do this. Certain things in America is easily accessible, and I would say that's because of easily accessible opportunities. But whereas I think there's certain conditions, I think compared to how things were back in the 1800s or whatever, when America was first coming to be, I think everything was free for all. You could do what you want, but we're gonna stay within these boundaries. But with time, as time progressed, we have these certain amendments, we have certain rules, we have certain stuff, and I think it kind of holds a damper on what quote unquote freedom really is. And I think as a people, we have a weird misconception of what that freedom really is. We do have the freedom of press and speech, right? But hey, we getting flagged on Facebook for saying fuck, shit, bitch. I don't know. Hope you might have to bleep that out. You know what I mean? You might have to bleep it out. We have the freedom to do what you want as a person, but yet there's certain stipulations to be like, well, yes, you have a freedom to protest, but you can't protest about this, that, and the third, and you can't protest here. So it's like I think it's free to a certain extent, and it's free with conditions and stipulations. So that's my point on it.
And I do want to throw something in there as well. Just look at the working environment of the average citizen, that 8 to 5, 9 to 5 type setup. Other places don't have it. It ain't just so fast paced and work, 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 and that is definitely something that causes additional stress, depression, and things like that in the culture of America, with how it's so fast paced and business oriented, and everybody chasing the money.
Money,
And
yeah.
not only that, but the cost of living is also higher than a lot of places. So even though you working so hard, you working this, you working that, you working a 9 to 5, you putting in that overtime, your rent still high, the food still high, everything still high. And even with that amount of work putting in, most people live check to check.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
other countries, you work for a certain amount of months, you get like 2 3 months off. In other countries, you get, it's a 6 hour work day. In other countries, you don't even have to work on a Friday. In other countries, they have mandatory times within the work day to go and relax, to go and breathe, to go take a walk, to go enjoy the fresh air.
Dude, far right. I
It's
sorry, I don't even mean to think, but that's a thing for real, I know in Japan
yeah,
the man get like mandatory nap times, dude. But
yeah.
when I went to Spain, Rota, Spain, like from the hours of like 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, our place shut down, everything closed. That man, I asked one of the locals like, "What's going on?" It was like, "Yeah, this is a time of rest. Stuff won't open back up
Hmm.
at like 12 o'clock," and it's like mandatory. It's their thing. It's their way of life. But I think it's like how America has now monopolized that freedom. Yeah, you have the freedom to walk, so now you're gonna walk twice as hard to get or obtain a certain level of freedom. And I think that's what it really boils down to. It's a matter of monopolizing, making a business model of that said freedom.
Capitalism.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
agree. I agree with you both. I question like who deemed it the land of the free. So if I think about it from the perspective of an outsider, just like you guys were outlining, there is so much freedoms that's here, including the financial freedoms, but just even the laws. Like there's a lot of laws that we don't have here that they have in these places. When we talk about the freedom of speech and these kind of things, if we look at North Korea, you can't do shit in North Korea.
not a
Like
thing.
you can say something in the media, you cut off from the world. So like from the perspective of somebody from the outside, even with all the gripes and complaint that we could have about America, it does indeed to a certain extent gives you that freedom kind of feeling. Don't get me wrong,
True,
like
true.
you use it how you want to use it, but there's a lot more. One
I
thing I
guess it's
want, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead. No, no, no. I was just gonna say. I guess it's just a matter of like levels. It's like levels to those freedoms.
And
But
that's what I think it boils down to. It's just all about like the perspective and
Yeah.
We have been to other places, so fortunately we are able to sit here and draw those comparisons, which is why it's so good to be able to go out here and travel, because you take a lot of things for granted until
True.
you see what it's like in some other places, and it's like, wow, I really do have a lot of freedom
Right.
where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's not, or like Farai and Kenny said, it's not the best of everything. Like everything is not just great and woolly and happy, but you can get away depending on what type of things you're into. You can get away with a lot more in America than you can in some of these
True.
other countries. Even like voting for presidents, all these kind of things is luxuries that we have that you don't necessarily have in other
Yeah.
places, or even if you have it, is so corrupt. I mean, don't get me wrong, we corrupt, but that man corrupt to the point where it's like they overthrowing the government and assassinate.
Revolt,
You know what I'm
revolts, and
saying?
so.
Yeah, revolt,
Yeah.
big, real revolts and so. But that leads me to one of the freedoms I want to talk about today. Wait, man, you ain't like and subscribe yet? Take time, take time. Go ahead and do that for me. Which is
Hmm.
the freedom to bear arms. So,
Jeez.
like I said, me and Kenny was talking about this topic, and he had brought up a prank video. I'm not sure if I could put it up on screen, but there was a prank video in which I think they were in the mall, correct?
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to highlight on the video.
I was going to talk about it a little bit. Oh no, actually,
Okay.
you go ahead. You was the one that sent me the video, so just talk about it.
Yeah, so with this video, it was of course we in this age of everybody trying to get likes, clicks, subscribes, and views. But it was this prankster, he was harassing this gentleman in the mall, and he kept trying to harass him, saying like, "Oh, you stealing this and that." And then of course the prankster kept pestering the one guy. Eventually the guy, now as he tries to get away, the prankster tried to, like, harass him, grab him. And I guess, the guy was saying, like, like, leave me alone, leave me alone. The guy ended up pulling out his gun and just bam, hit him 2 shots, double tappy. Luckily, thank God, the prankster survived. He just sustained, like, some injuries and what's not. The guy who shot the prankster, he shot him. He was arrested. They did a trial or whatever. Of course, the family's trying to sue him, but he was able to get off. He got off scot free. So I know I sent that video to Webb because, Deshaun is a big pro, no guns, no guns allowed. But versus me, I do think as a man, I own a couple firearms myself. I do think it is needed. It is warranted to a certain extent. So I know that's kind of what we kind of like talked about.
So, like Kenny shared, I'm team no guns. I have a decent level of education. So I know that, let's say, for example, I'm not out here just pushing to say, like, let's just ban guns all of a sudden, as if there's not millions of guns in the world. Like, I don't necessarily know how we could get to that point. But the reason I'm like that is because I sincerely believe that the freedom to bear arms and the freedom to have guns, especially in some states where you could get, time you turn 18, going to store,
Less
get a
than that.
firearm,
Less
open,
than that,
carry,
dude. It's
all
like
this. Your
16.
parents,
It's like 16.
exactly, your parents give you guns and stuff. I think it does more harm than none. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not very political into this. This is just a thought I have. If based on what I say right now, if anybody wants to correct me, feel free to correct me. But when I'm looking at these other countries that has very strict gun laws, they generally also have less crime. So from like my opinion,
Mhm.
I think like the more guns you introduce, the more likely you're making it to have crime. Now I know people argue, say, hey, the criminals gonna still get guns. That's not gonna change regardless if the gun laws or no gun laws. My thing is, how often is it that people using these guns to defend themselves? On top of that, I feel like carrying around a gun makes you more
Like you invite him
inclined. Yeah,
to
you
use
make
it.
it makes you more inclined to do something. Because
Right.
let's say, for example, somebody come to rob me. This person might not even be thinking to shoot me or anything. But because I have a gun on me now, I have that innate, like, oh yeah, I could shoot him. And we all know about people who just waiting for somebody to try them or waiting to get within a slither of the law so they could justify using the firearm on somebody. And that's why I think it does more harm than good. I don't I understand the arguments of there's more school shooters and there's more mall and mass shootings, but I'm like, okay, first of all, if we didn't have as much guns, I think that would be a little bit less. And second of all, how often is it that these things happen and somebody even have a gun there with them to even do anything about it? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
What
So
side are you guys on?
I'm on the side. I'm kind of in the middle, and I'm more towards being for guns in America specifically because of how far gone we are with firearms in America.
No, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I, I do think that it is more ideal to have more strict gun laws, to have less guns on the street, because, like you said, the probability of shit hitting the fan and somebody pulling out a firearm would be much lower. The access that kids have to a lot of these firearms would be much lower, especially those that go out and do these school shootings. That's just probability. It's less guns, less shootings.
Hmm.
These kids that doing these shootings, a lot of these guns are registered to parents, registered to others, so they do have access to that. Now, I do think I don't think it's an issue necessarily having the guns. I just think it's way too easy to get a gun
Mm.
So the
with
matter of
the current
regulations.
laws. I
So
think
the
that
matter of regulation.
regulations is
Yeah.
makes more sense. I do think that more enforcement. I mean, guns should be locked up. Guns shouldn't be accessible to anybody else in the house that's not registered under that firearm. It should be locked away. It should have the proper safety precautions, and that should be enforced. They should be doing house visits. I mean, I know government always have budget constraints, and that make add a whole full-time job, a whole position throughout the states, millions of dollars, even billions potentially to incorporate something like that. But I do think that with the amount of firearms we have on the streets, we if we're not going to be pulling possession from the masses because of the right to bear, we should be doing more enforcement and
Mm.
more
Solid
mandatory
points.
education as well, because
Solid points.
th- you could go,
I,
you could go once you reach the age you don't even need a friggin' course for
nothing.
in half of these states. You could just go and
That's a
pick
good
up a
point.
gun, no safety, nothing. Now you have your gun sitting on top of countertop. You had no type of lessons. You have your gun off safety. You have it charged, everything ready to go, and a simple lesson, a simple class, a simple course could have helped you to be more safe with
Mitigate.
it.
Yeah, mitigate all of those
This damn
problems.
flight is killing me.
Dude, catch it.
I
Can't even
trying.
stop stick.
So like to kind of pivot. So I guess I'm definitely like pro guns. I do have my certain reservations in terms of the use and access to guns, but I think the biggest problem or issues that we have is more along the lines of gun regulation. I've been in certain places, like I've seen kids, I've been to the shooting range, outside shooting range, gun range. And I think what's crazy is, like to what Farah is saying, is certain places has enforced our there's like a family implied education on gun safety and gun respect. So I know I've seen kids handle guns, and it's like it's a respect thing. Like they understand, and it's a respect thing like with anything. The same way when it comes to like driving a car or doing stuff. Like I've seen this 7-year-old shoot his own deer and stuff like that, and I'm just like, damn, dude, like aren't you afraid? He was like, no. Like they have that basic understanding of what guns are, how to use it, how to manage it, how to correctly, you know what I mean? It's I guess it's that gun respect, for like I said, like I have a couple of firearms myself, and I think what it really boils down to is we have now gotten into a state of where any and everybody can get a gun, right? Granted, it's not going to take away the fact that guns are going to be utilized, going that's going to be left on the street or found in the street, but I think it's we have now dwelled from a era or a mindset of, a gun is a tool, but now it's like guns are now like a way of life now. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like a tool. Like I know a gun shouldn't be no different from a knife. You know what I mean? But then now we have individuals who are now using and abusing that such right and freedom to have that, to bear arms. So now, in order to kind of mitigate and to have better constraints on that such right, I do think the government should impose certain stuff, to set certain stuff in place to now, not saying make it, I don't want to say make it harder, but like go through certain detailed background investigations, certain avenues to where it's like I shouldn't go to academy right now and buy a gun and get a gun that same day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Certain regulations or certain stuff imposed to make sure that I don't want to say the right people, but to show that there is some sort of standardization across the board in terms of like gun regulations.
This,
Like,
this is the thing. My bad, go ahead.
no, 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 no. That's pretty much the end of my thought. Go ahead.
And I
This
do
is the
have a
thing.
thought after you.
It's a hard conversation because even if certain stipulations, let's say, I mean, they do background checks and stuff. But let's say even though
Clearly.
they do courses and stuff, like a lot of the people with guns in, they have some sense in. A lot of people
That's
that's
true.
committing some of these crimes, they have sense. So they might still pass these things, go get their gun, and then you also have the people who are based in a capitalistic system who are going to pass their things, get their guns, and still go sell the guns
True.
to somebody else who can't get, because money is the root of our evil. And when somebody dangling money in front of you, it becomes very easy to say, "Look, man, let me just deal up. I was signing it after whatever, and or say I got had it stolen or whatever, and now I don't have any
Yeah.
responsibility." So it is
True.
it is a tough thing. I do agree, like especially for women. I know women, there's all kind of sexual abuse and different things that happen, so it's good to protect themselves. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard topic for me, man, because I feel like if it had none, like
It
we'd
wouldn't
be
be
good.
no need.
I do agree with far right though, like know where we at right now. But
Yeah.
the first step is going to be like somewhat more regulation. Now I don't know exactly what that is and how that looks, but is unrealistic to say everybody going to gun buyback program and everybody going to just turn back in their guns. And then I do respect the hunters and those people, but I just look at it for the violence. Is like to me like we could do without it. That situation with that dude in the prank video, I don't think shooting him was warranted. Like no, but and that's the problem. You're gonna have a bunch of people who gonna sit on the internet and say, yeah, man, hey, you play stupid games, play stupid prizes, bro. A prize for doing a prank that's non-threatening in the sense that like there's no real immediate danger. That's my problem. People that create some of this immediate danger because they have the gun on them. Now it's self-defense. Whole time your life wasn't really threatened for real. Now if somebody like you see the ones where they use like a slang word for a gun or you trying to get popped or whatever they're trying to say. No, that's a little bit different because now these
Yeah.
people making more of an immediate threat in your life. In that situation, dude was just kind of harassing him. So now we're trying to justify shooting somebody because you getting harassed. Like how realistic is it to say this person was, you know what I'm
I
saying? Don't be wrong.
mean,
I
I
think
mean,
both sides deserve some kind of punishment, but to get shot
that's
is kind of
true.
crazy.
But I guess in certain situations, like suppose no, if it wasn't a prank, no, suppose this guy's life was actually threatened, and the only means was, man, if I had my own means of protection. And granted, it's open to interpretation, and I get what you're saying,
Good point.
but I get what you're saying, but granted, the situation that was brought up in a video was just one of those. I mean, it was like there's many other situations like that, maybe
Mm,
some better critical thinking could have happened to be like, what, it's better if I just walk away, like you, and I think it's better if I just call the police and just keep it pushing, but there's other situations that warrants is like, man, I need to protect myself or I am in fear of my life. And
mm,
it's kind of hard to say what one person deems as fear to one's life versus what somebody else would think.
correct.
I've been in situations where it's like, wow, I have my gun on me and I'm just like, hey man, keep it walking, dude. Like, keep it walking. And then there's other situations where it's like, what? You know what, my time, I can just turn around and walk away. Granted, I may have that kind of emotional, intellectual maturity to be like, to kind of assess the certain situations. Granted, there's some other people who don't really have that, who view certain situations differently, you know.
But then if you scary, even more reason why you don't need a gun.
Right, and that's why I do think that with the background checks should be a bit more rigorous, and it should also include like
Hmm.
some real deal psychological tests
So
to
you mean like they
determine
have to
whether or not
somebody.
you able to handle a high stress situation and make the right call.
So when you say that, you mean like they have to actually like go get a evaluation before they could get a firearm? Because we can't just look
Something
up
like
the
that.
file. That makes sense.
Yeah, right. So as part of the background check, as part of the requirements, you do your background check. Yes, they just do the normal background check, but then you also have to do a
Hmm.
psychological test. You also, like, if you have certain conditions, you either have restrictions in getting a firearm or you can't get it at all.
I would say you
Different
can't
things
get
like
that
that.
file. Yeah.
So I mean, it might suck for you, but it's for the purpose of keeping people safe. If you are a scary person, they should have a test that could evaluate your level of being able to handle stress. If you
Yeah. Because
can't handle normal stressful situations and you take it over the top, then maybe you have to go through simulations of something, and I don't know what that test would look
yeah.
like, but that should be
True.
in place, because one of the biggest issues, especially with some of the mass shootings and things like that we seeing, is mental instability of some kind. And
Mhm.
whether they sane on a normal day but something brought them over the top, it's still some form of whether you consider it a mental illness or a mental instability. That's something that could potentially be um caught during that type of test. And then one
True.
more thing I will add, in on the education side,
Mhm.
um for if people are actually required to take courses even for just home protection and things like that. I,
Mhm.
I remember in my concealed carry course that I take in Florida, one thing I had never even thought of is, even in the event of self-defense and you do discharge your firearm, once you discharge your firearm, 9 out of 10 times you are going to be arrested at the scene, and they're going to work everything else out after the fact. It's
Mhm.
it's, it's not just a,
True.
oh, it was a
Go home.
self-defense, just go home, you chill. They have to do a full thorough investigation. There will be immediate, you will be taken into custody by the police by discharging a firearm. I'm sure a lot of people don't even know that fact.
Mhm.
True.
Just
True.
a simple thing like that, it'll make you think more about discharging your firearm, and really have you understand the calamity of discharging your firearm and how serious of a situation that is, and how serious it's seen by the police as well. Just something like that, and then there's a whole bunch of different things you learn in the courses, but that's just one thing that could cause maybe thousands of people not to have discharged the firearm in a certain situation that they necessarily warrant it, unless you escalate maybe two steps higher.
Mhm.
True.
So
True.
Speaking and things like that. Another thing I also notice in some of these countries that has less crime is their punishment system in terms of the prisons and the laws. So one of the things in, I know, like we know in like Saudi Arabia and in China and different places, they use, what is it, corporal punishment, the correct term?
Capital.
No, not capital, not corporal, capital
Yeah.
punishment.
Yeah.
They use capital punishment, and there are a lot more often than we do in America. I'm indifferent about it. Before I was strictly against it. Now, looking at certain things, I'm a little bit more open. I'm not saying I'm for it per se. I'm just more open to the conversation. But I do think that the level of punishment for different crimes in these countries also lends to why you don't have as much crime in these countries. For example, if you murder, it's not, oh, you okay, you murder under this and under that, you might catch a 15 years or this. A lot of these places is murder,
A
capital
life for
punishment.
life.
Yeah, life, like yeah, it's either you're in jail for life or they're taking your life. Same
hmm,
thing for like drugs. Like these people put you in jail for a long time, or sometimes even no. I do think that some of it is a little bit extreme, but then at the same time, I think about it like, how extreme is it? Don't go do it. Like
right,
that's a powerful
it's an
deterrent.
extreme deterrent, yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
know now, okay, if I go do this, I'm really going to get punished. Now, the reason I was indifferent from it is 'cause how we're looking at it from the standpoint, like, you know what? Prison's supposed to be for reform.
Rehabilitation.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation. Now we could get into a whole different part about the prison system. But it's like, okay, this person did something. Is he really unforgivable? But like I said, man, I mean, if you put it in place like these places, if they, hey, you right, and why just say earlier, people say you play stupid game, you win stupid prizes. That
Hmm.
could be something that alleviates some of the crime that's happening, because now you know if you rob somebody, you ain't gonna get no probation or none of these things. You going straight. You better live by the law and respect the law. You know what I'm saying? Same
Sure.
thing for like the
Yeah.
police departments and all these things. Like, it's kind of crazy to me. You could be in a place where the police force don't have guns.
Hmm.
Mm.
Like, that's crazy to me. I would like to somehow get to that without having to leave America. Now that's a cry that I probably never gonna see in my lifetime. But
Yeah.
that's dope to be able to, if you feel comfortable enough that you could walk around and not even think like somebody might rob you. Not saying that it don't happen. I'm sure it happens over there, but not nearly as much. If I walk on a weird place now, I automatically on guard. I don't
Right.
think it's like that in different countries. How you guys feel about just the capital punishment in itself? What side are you guys on that?
I guess I'll go next. I mean, I overall I am against capital punishment. I just don't think that we have the right to take a life as human beings. I know they have criminals that do, but I don't think that we should necessarily bring it into our legal system and our justice system. However, I do think that it is a very effective deterrent in limiting the amount of crimes that would be punishable by capital punishment. It's very effective in limiting those types of crimes. Like you could imagine in the VI if capital punishment was in place, and you could imagine if it was in place for any level of murder, and it actually happened a couple of times. Like it actually went through, the person was sentenced, they were sentenced to capital punishment, and they were actually executed.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll be seeing the amount of crime that we see today. Not even close.
I
I
agree.
don't think. I don't think. I do think that people would think different. We might revert back to jumping people and fighting with hands because we don't want to get in that type of trouble.
Facts.
So I do think it's effective, and though I don't agree with it, I think it works.
I don't think it's effective in the U.S. And the reason why I think y'all can hear me.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, so the reason why I don't think it's as effective in the US is compared to those other countries, it's a matter of immediate, it happens immediately versus somebody in the US that's on debt row, bro. You want to know they'll be on debt row for like 30, 40,
that's
50
a good point.
years. 30, 40, 50 years before something is actually done. Why I would say it's more effective in other countries like let's say Saudi Arabia, that man steals something or whatever. And when I say, I'm not really kind of keeping it just for capital punishment, but just punishment as a whole. It's
Mm.
immediate punishment. It's like, yep, you do this, yeah. Tomorrow you get your hand chopped off for stealing. You just kill somebody, cool, boom, gun squad, whatever, whatever. It happening right there, right then. I would say the latest that action is probably going to be happening is probably like a year or so, and that's probably for the sake of rebuttals and what's not. So when we view capital punishment, we're thinking of like an immediate response for immediate problem, and I don't think that happens in the US. That's not really a thing.
I
But
need to look into that.
yeah, it's not a thing. I don't think it's a thing. Um, but when I say is I'm kind of against the whole capital punishment, and I would say for the sake of, for one, like you said, Farai, is like who are humans to kind of to decide who lives and who dies, right? Granted, the extent of someone else's crimes, but in many other cases, we see people who are like sent to their death and they're innocent, right?
Mhm.
That's one that, and there's actually like most of those cases, right? And then another thing that we run into is now, suppose that those people now who are pleading insanity, who are mental illness, who are quote unquote crazy, and they do certain stuff, right? So then now, do we now downplay the fact that this person has a mental problem? No, we can just kill them for that. So then the purpose of jail and all of those different stuff is for the sake of rehabilitation, sending them to the psych ward or whatever, rehabilitation. So now it's like you kill somebody, we put them, we send them to the electric chair, or lethal injection, right? And now it's like, at that point now, we start playing God at this point now. So it's like, if someone now kills someone else in, like, quote unquote, like we talked about gun laws now, self-defense,
Mhm.
or perfect example, one homeboy who was in this whole vehicular manslaughter. It was like a manslaughter. No, I wouldn't say it was fault of his. I think it was a truck driver, and it happened a couple years ago. Or
Mhm.
And I know there was like another situation. There was like a situation where this one guy was like, by chance he happened to kill like couple people or whatever.
Mhm.
Not really so much a fault of his own. He did everything in his power to mitigate the incident, but it happened. But then right there and then, of course, now you take a life. No, we got to send you to the chair. So
But that's
now
the
But
it's
you
thing.
like,
see, that's a little different. I think it would
no, no,
be
no. But the point I'm trying to make is,
right,
it's
right.
like anywhere you speak it, it's like, a life for a life. But then, granted, of course, we're having certain reservations, as in, like, what, like, let's look at the whole facts. But then, how are we going to regulate who lives and who dies?
The same way
How
you regulate it, no.
The
Right.
same way
But
we
this is my
regulate
thing,
it
right?
now.
So
So
we we
then now,
we 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 pouncing around this morality bullshit.
but
These
once
niggas is
again,
killing people and doing immoral shit.
but
We already
once
saying
again,
that.
so then now 10, like 9 out of the 10 people who are now sent to the death penalty, right? 9 out of 10, 7 out of those people are innocent.
That happens regardless. That don't
Yeah,
change.
so then now you just send an innocent person to their death now.
So now this is what I'm about to say. So
Go ahead.
you talked about the lengthy process, and that's why I say I'd have to research and what's going into the process. There's no way you should be,
Hmm.
but just like you were talking about when we're talking about punishment, it could still be life.
Yeah, and I think that would be the
Because
more appropriate thing to do. I think
the
life in
thing is,
prison
right?
and
We
stuff like that.
looking, we picking the exception to the rules. How much of these people are going to the death row are really innocent? Like whether or not, like that's not going to change. You know what I'm saying? You do your due
Do
diligence,
diligence.
and I do agree. Like there is it in America, and they still not doing it to a good level. That goes into a discussion
The
of
justice system and
yeah,
how we the
reform
road.
the whole justice system. But and like I said, I'm not necessarily for it. I'm just kind of bringing up the discussion to just talk about it and form my opinion about it. But you could still have the due diligence and still do it for certain people. Like we have, like there is cases where people blatantly doing things. The court process is not that long for them, and
True.
they still in jail for 20 years and gonna come back out. And like I said, I could see where you're coming from with the moral thing. I just stated it when I originally stated my take about it's like, damn, you're taking a life. But man, when I really thinking about it, they didn't give a shit about taking the life that they took.
Yeah. True.
That's true.
True. True.
And
That's true.
all this doing is just what? Lacing taxpayers' dollars and all these people dollars to have to maintain these institutions for them to come back out with some stripes and say, yeah, man, I don't do my bid and go back to do the same thing. No, no, no. Repeat offenders not even some of them not even gain debt penalty, or some of them gain life, some of them gain, and okay, we keep you another 15 years, okay, 30 years, like back out again to go do the same bullshit. Especially now when you release me, and this
You
is
can go back and do the same thing.
yeah, and but under the premise that you release me and now I don't really have that much opportunities now, I struggling. What the hell you expect some of these people to go do? I guess I don't want to get
Hey,
into that kind of discussion about the justice system, but it's an interesting topic when we talk about. But I
yeah,
think
for
I think
sure.
it seems like we're all in agreement that the punishment could be a lot more. It doesn't necessarily have to be capital punishment, but they should a more extreme punishment system and judicial system
Hmm. Yeah,
could
it
probably
would.
now. Yeah, it might mess up black people now. You know how that man to deal with we, but
Shoot, that's
Sure.
another. That's a
But
whole
yeah,
nother. That's another like three parts in itself.
my son. Yeah, that is more extreme punishments for these crimes. I think it can change a lot. I mean, if you could get out the box, you could be like, if you sexually assault somebody,
Well, they're
to
just
us, like if
pedophiles.
with penetration or something from a certain level of assault and up, you lose your genitalia, something like that. That's
hey, that's
extreme. People
hey,
ain't gonna
hey,
fuck with
That's
that.
facts, you
extreme.
know.
You're
They
right. You're
gone.
right. You're right.
Your penis gone.
Facts,
You're right.
facts.
Like what you going to do then? So I do agree that we should, well, not necessarily, not that we should, that those more extreme punishments could lead to better results in the crimes that we see and the level of crime that we see throughout the America and the communities. And I did want to just backtrack real quick to the bearing arms thing,
Uh,
because one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I guess is a for bearing arms in America is, if a country decide to raid and invade America and some type and some Pearl Harbor type overnight type shit, every other person, every other house have guns in the house.
true.
The Shango just call the
People,
police.
the
Government just call the
people could
police.
Yeah,
defend
man, that's what they
themselves.
been.
The people could defend themselves. If somebody invade one of them countries where nobody have guns, you have to depend solely on the military to protect and to fight back.
True. That's a solid
Technically,
point,
America
boy.
has a whole army sitting down
But
at
I'm
home in the event that they need to stand up and fight for their freedom.
I'm
I
going
want to
to
hear what
push
Web
back.
gonna say. I
I'm
want to
going
hear
to
what
push
Web
back.
said. You could call the police.
Because
You could
me,
call the
no.
police.
I ain't gonna lie. I already said like as much as I don't like the military and these things, if we get in a war and it look like America really about to get bombed up on them thing, I defending. I signing up to defend, but at this point, my kids them in danger. Like,
Yeah.
True.
but I want to push back on that because if we being realistic, what are the chances that somebody had enough troops get past all the airspace and make it into? Come on, bro. Like,
We
come
talking
on, bro.
hypothetical here.
Oh,
If they
hypothetical.
did, if
Hypothetical.
and
It
even
is.
even if it's not a sneaking type situation, say it's World War III, and man, it's forcing their way in and they fighting their way in and they did make it to the ground.
True.
They think they were in some suburb and the houses look nice and they could take
You think
refuge and kick the people out.
you think they'll
Them
be able
man
to do
have,
that? Fuck. You think they'll be able to do that in Texas or
me-
Florida? True.
man, that's an army.
Buckshot. Buckshot
But
here.
what I
Buckshot
will
there.
say though, what I will say in that situation,
Mhm.
I do think that chaos will break loose first, and we'll just start doing all type of crazy shit to each other before we get our bearings straight.
Which is
But
crazy.
The purge. The purge. The purge.
yeah, like some crazy shit like that. Not
Yeah.
probably not as bad as the purge, but I do think, of course, man going to loot, man going to do all type of shit. But that is one thing that we do have that other countries don't necessarily have.
I'm actually gonna support your point, thinking about it. But I think you think too far out. This country has civil wars and all kind of wars within itself. So if a group here actually decides, you know what, we're going to take up arms and go do some stuff, then some of the community members having arms to be able to defend within just our own country could be somewhat
And I
beneficial.
think that was one of the points of the I need to do my research, but I do think that was one of the points of them having that right to bear arm, because in the
Yeah.
event that you from within the government doing shit you don't like, you have the right to stand up, you have the right to have those arms, you have the right to protect yourself, and you have the right to go for some
That's
type of
true.
change. So
Good points.
That's true.
that's
And it all boils down to, like that whole, land of the free, home of the brave,
True. How
You know.
brave are
And
we? We're just playing.
brave enough. Brave enough though. Brave enough. But no,
But
that's a solid point for real though. But for that's a really
sorry,
solid point.
it
Because
is.
because there is certain situations and and for the means of defending yourself and your own household, you do have that right to do so. You know, I do think as individuals, as Americans, we do overextend what that right really entails. You know, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna bring my gun to a bar and get drunk and get shit faced and then no, shoot the first person that look at me funny, and then it's like, well, I have my right to stand my ground, and
I mean, to be
you
honest, that's
know,
probably illegal if we're being honest. Like,
you know
I
what I
want to
mean,
take chemicals in bars.
but you know
Especially
what I
if
mean,
it's
but
like,
you get people who try to justify stuff like that. I
yeah,
know I get friends. I don't say friends, associates. I know people who are like that. They flash off open carry, and I feel like they'd just be itching to use their gun. It's like, yeah, give me a reason to shoot you. I've done see crazy stuff where man and man, you get cut off on the highway and man just busting shot after you. I'm just like, yo, that's crazy. And then of
but
course now their justification is, well, I felt threatened or my life was in danger, and they try to now skirt that gray area of the law. And and that's what it really boils down to.
And
I'm,
stand your ground is quite a gray area altogether.
It
that's why
really
stand
is.
my it's crazy. Well, I respect it in certain. Obviously, respect everything in certain situations at work. But like I said, I know too much people who like consciously thinking about like how can they put themselves in a
In that
stand your ground
situation. Yeah.
situation.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
And to me,
that's
that's a
true.
problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a problem. That means, like,
Mental
yeah,
illness,
mental
mental
problem. Yeah,
illness,
you
mental
got me what's
illness,
coming.
mental illness.
Mental
No,
illness.
And
But I
to be
want, I
no.
honest,
want to
that
say,
guy.
oh,
Oh
my bad. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, to be honest, the guy in the prank video, he should have had some type of ramifications. Whether
Yes.
he should
Yeah,
have had some type of ramifications in that
true.
specific scenario.
Even
Because
True.
if they deem that he was felt threatened, that's a very extreme use of force. I'm not
right,
saying he should get
exactly.
locked away forever or something, but you need some kind of punishment too, brother.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
So what
that
about
situation I warrant maybe a backhand, maybe you get
wait,
boxed off, but
wait. So
not
yeah,
to
man. Wait, I see. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I see the video about the off-duty policewoman, and she was walking on the road, and some dude trying to rob her.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh gosh, and she trying this dude trying to rob her. He trying to grab her. And she was like, granted, she was like, I'm gonna shoot you now. You about to die now. He tried to rob her. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And of course, in a case like that where he was initially the aggressor, he kind of died down and was like, okay, my bad. Like, okay, I messed up, you know, because she had the gun. She kind of insisted, like, yep, I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna shoot you. Eventually, she ended up shooting homeboy. I didn't really dig too much details on whether or not the homeboy survived or not. I
after
think,
it de-escalated.
well, I can't really say it was much of a de-escalation. It was more of like a struggle. He realized that she had a gun and she was really
Ah,
about to shoot him, and he was pleading, I'm sorry, like, just let me go, just let me go. And then granted, I think she ended up shooting him a couple of times. I know from the comments, and you can't really kind of trust comments on these social media. They said he died and the family tried to sue her. And in other cases they did say that
Hey,
they
this is
tried to sue her,
crazy.
but they lost the thing because of course the dude tried to rob her. And granted, it's on video.
in that
So
situation, how you explain that, I do think that it was justifiable. The action, he was trying to rob her. He only started singing a different tune after he realized that she was prepared,
yeah,
and it was in the middle of a scuffle during that plead. So
I would have to send you the
that
video
one is a little
for
different. Yeah, I'd
if I
have to see it,
find
but
it.
that sound a little more justifiable.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Me ain't gonna speak on it until I see that one there.
yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I
Nonetheless,
can.
that should it should still be tied to some type of counseling, some type of something. And then the one with that other
Yeah,
guy, even if it wasn't prison time for the guy with the prank, it should have come with
some
something,
type of
some type of
ramifications.
punishment. Yeah, that one
Yeah,
should have come with some
Something
type of
to help
punishment.
deter you from just doing that
Doing
every
that
time
right.
you feel
Yeah.
something. You know what I'm saying? Like I
but
said, not gonna ruin your life, but
it's so crazy though. But we're just such in an age right now, and it's not taking away the whole thing that we're talking about in terms of guns, and it's this whole age of social media, and I think it's people do stupid stuff for likes. And maybe that's no, that's like, like name a mental illness. That's not a mental illness. I think that's one of it, bro. That's one of this. That's one of it, dude. Like
Yeah, for sure.
that's one
That's
of
true.
it. It's like the things that what people do for likes, the things that people do for shares is like me
I
in my
think that's
right
happened to
mind is
yourself.
going to try, it is. It's like me going to know. Granted, there's no right for homeboy to shoot somebody else because I was being pranked, and I know that's web. I know that's something that you were saying is like, there's definitely some huge de-escalation ish, points that could be made or choices that could be made, but it's like why are we now in this whole era to where it's like we're going to do the most stupid things? I'm gonna roll up to
Mm,
somebody and be like, "Hey man, what you got on there?"
Bro, money,
Oh, let me
bro.
get. You know what I mean? It's now,
money, yeah. That's the
and
It's
and
answer
money.
it's
right there.
It's
and I feel like
capitalism.
and I feel like at that point, that's the mental illness right there. Like
It's
somebody,
capitalism.
somebody in the right mind gonna try and press me for the sake of likes, shares,
It's
and
not for likes.
retweets
It comes in the form of like shares, but really and truly, what they're looking for is money.
to
You're gonna
But
go
get
some
to
that
people,
attention
be
and people
viral.
associate gain like
but to be
viral moment
fair,
with bread and so.
Viral.
a lot of people ain't trying to grow their social media to that level of money making. They really just chasing clout and chasing the likes
No,
without
but
the intention of money.
that's the thing. You don't. Well, maybe you're right.
I would have to now
I,
ask
I
you
feel
this.
like a
Now I have
lot
to
of
pose
most
this.
people.
Go
Let
ahead.
me
Go ahead.
save
Go
it.
ahead.
Let me save it. Let me
Yeah.
save it. Let
Yeah,
me save it.
let's
I
pack
like.
it
I like.
down, pack it down one real quick for more in depth
Yeah.
discussion on that, man.
To
Yeah,
close
for
us
sure.
out, I want to
Yeah,
play the
man.
game. I know I put on Facebook. I made a joke about waiting for um what let me I can't remember exactly what I said, but I was joking about the people who come on every year and make the same New Year's resolutions. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm chasing the bag, etc. etc. So let's play the game a little bit. Let's kick out some New Year's resolutions or whatever you guys want to title, like Farai said. I do want to highlight one thing so far. Kenny earlier, he talked about started to say friends, then he went to associates, and then he said like people I know. That's one thing I leave in 2024, man. I am my friends, bro. I know you. That's it. No disrespect. I I've been throwing around
Hey,
the term
the term
friend
friends.
way too loosely, and then to cuddle to feelings, I want to say associates. No, you're not even my associates. I just know you. Like we
Hmm.
cool, and let it be that. It's not a disrespect, but we just not that close. I really don't know what you have going on in your life. Like you just a dude that I know. We don't have personal deep conversations. We see each other, we cool here and there, we just cool. I'm not calling out my friends. I went
Hmm.
first. That's my one thing. Let's just kick off with
My,
one thing you're leaving. You're leaving in
Yeah.
2024. Something you're leaving in 2024.
one thing that well, I wouldn't say that I leave in, but one thing that I uh, do want to or will start taking serious is now my budgeting, because I definitely have some not the best spending habits with my extra change, where I could be budgeting a lot better to spend my money a lot more intentionally. So that's one thing I want to set up the game plan and stick to the plan and keep it going.
I guess for me, it's just more establishing defined boundaries for myself.
Y'all came with some
Um,
serious things that I come with not calling people friends. We're supposed to use that
yeah,
joke. I'm gonna spin back after you done, Kenny.
nah, man, it's just like establishing some serious boundaries for myself. I kind of came across some, words of wisdom. I'm always scrolling and like, uplifting things. And, like one of the points I really kind of stuck with, and it was, I'm going to just read off one. I had to save it to my phone, right? That's how serious it is, right? But the one that really, really, really stuck out to me, right? And I say stuck out for me, like stuck out for me, right? Is, like you're not responsible for managing someone else's emotions. Let
Mm.
them feel how they want to feel. And when I say it's like when I say that in terms of like boundaries, I always find myself trying to advocate or try to compromise for the sake of someone else. And I think it's something. It's not something it's for a New Year's resolution, but it's something I'm implementing into my day to day life, and I'm trying to continue that. Like I'm trying to continue on for the rest of the year. So I would say that's kind of something I try to push forward for the New Year's,
All
going
right.
into the New Year's. Spin the block.
we argued some serious things, even though I let
Spin the
that
block.
it
Spin the
drove,
block.
which I'm
Spin the
very
black
serious
die.
about. I'm not calling out my friends, but one of the things that I will work on, and you can expect this of the podcast too, audience, is consistencies, man. Big on the
Right.
consistency, you know what I'm saying? Being able to create systems that keeps things more consistent because your failures in your life comes from as how good your system is. I misuse the quote. It's a brilliant quote. I'm gonna say it one of these days in a video. But when you develop the right systems, it takes a lot of the thinking out of it sometimes, and some of the human procrastinations and certain things you combat it by creating systems. So to implement more systems to create consistency. And then
And
one
that's
more thing I'm
really
doing is
oh
I gonna show a lot of the behind the scenes things that I've been doing um this throughout the whole year. I'm a secretive person. A lot of people think they know everything I'm doing, but they really do not know half of what I'm doing. And I'm not doing it to flex or boast or anything, but to kind of create, for one, motivation, for two, credibility, and to build awareness around certain things. You know what I'm saying? So people could see what's going on. I would love to tell y'all something my mother, shout out to my mother, what she have me doing now. Real dope thing, but we're gonna show it coming 2025. We're
But
gonna we're gonna show what's going on, man. Y'all gonna get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's going on in my life for sure. Hate at your
all
own
right.
risk.
I
for
like that. I
sure, for
like that.
sure, for
And that's a
sure.
good, good point to say. Happy New Year to everybody.
Bless
Thank you
up,
for
bless
coming
up.
through to the last part of 2024. We start what? We started in what February and we've been going kind of fall off a
Ah,
few times, but like website consistency, we're working on
it's
getting
key.
those engines running and setting up the efficient system and we're gonna keep it coming. So thanks for coming through. Peace over the heart, man.
Oh shit.
For sure.